So we are back with the third part of legal document scrutiny that we are teaching you. When you're buying a property, what are legal documents that have to be there when you're buying an investment, and you have to check those documents because, as rightly said, I've said it in the videos before, we are buying the title of the property, not the possession of the property. Of course, I don't deny the fact that possession is at most important when you're buying a property. But along with the possession, the most important factor that you have to keep in mind is also the title of the documents, which have to be 100% legally verified or subjectively approved by any institute legally who knows how to check documents. So where we had left the last part of the video was that we were talking about when a person dies intestate, there are two options that a person leaves behind. Option one is that the person has left behind a registered will or an unregistered will. That's option one. And option two is if there's no such will, what is the legal procedure that the person has to follow. So here we are concentrating on the first part of the video which will be talking about the will part, where it says that the person, if died, has left behind a will. First, we need to understand the meaning of what is a will. A will is when a person who's dying or a person who's no more leaves behind something willingly, out of love and affection, or out of donation, or out of any other factor, and leaves behind a certain property, valuables, jewelry, assets, etc., movable or immovable. So all those assets have been willingly transferred or left behind for another person out of love and affection. Could be a family member or could be an external member. Then the person, that means, has left a will of that particular asset or that property. Here, in case, since we are mentioning the property, so we'll stick to the part that we're talking about the property here. So if we are talking about a will being registered or an unregistered will, I'm not going to focus too much about the unregistered will, because in the eyes of when we come down to property documentation, in the eyes of the law or in the eyes of anything else, there is nothing which carries a value if it is an unregistered will. So when it comes down to an unregistered will, it could be for a family settlement, or on the basis of that unregistered will, family could sign MOU or other things. So I'm not going to get into those details. But sincerely, when we are talking about something which is real estate, there has to be a registered will which is only accepted and approved by any legal institute. So here, when we are talking about focusing on a will being registered, there could be a lot of options when someone is registering a will. So for those things to follow up, we prepare a list of documents like this. When you come to us for buying a property, or you come to us to help us, do your present transaction effortlessly, we'll first make down a chart like this, which mentions as to how the title has been transferred from starting from A to ending to Z, and then finally someone who's transferring it to you today has the right title in his hand and the authenticity to transfer it further in your name, yes or no. So, not to forget, when we talk about a registered will, there could be a person A who has four sons, B, C, D, E, and those four sons, the A father has left behind his will for B and C and not for D and E. That's one aspect of it. And another aspect of it is when there's a father A and he's left his entire assets and everything, property, behind for B, C, D, E equally, proportionately, which means that behind the father who's dying, there are four family members or four sons who are authenticatedly the legal heirs of that particular property. Then in that case, it makes another sense of it. So when we're talking about A part, where the person could have registered a will to an XYZ person in particular and the other legal heirs are left, then there could be a chance which is left for the probate of the will. So we'll not get into much details again for the second step, but here what we are mentioning is that how are we verifying that the property is correct or not. So if in case we are talking about a will being registered and a will has been left for a person XYZ, and on that basis of the will there has been no challenge to that will, that challenge has been made against that person, then the will is absolutely okay and can go ahead with. And that too, there is a time period where the challenge to that will is allowed or not. So those are the legal parts of it. For that, you have to consult a legal person and someone who can guide you better on this. But just to give a gist about the whole thing, when we see a title of the property is clear in terms that a particular person, say for example, Shri Babuji, had few legal heirs behind him. So that means after the death, there were a certain set of legal heirs which had come up, but he had registered a will in favor of his four sons and leaving behind the daughters. Then in that case, it is acceptable or not? Of course, it is acceptable, but there are some pros and cons to it, which I've already shared in this previous 10 seconds, that how can it be challenged and all those things can come into the play. But when it has been equally divided amongst the sons and the daughters or whoever are the following legal heirs, then that registered will does not stand a chance to be challenged and things like that. So when we talk about someone dying, the first two things that we have to check, which I've already mentioned in the previous video, is that is there a will or not. That's number one. If there is no will, then we follow the legal procedure to clear the title and the number of legal heirs which stand after that particular person. So that's another aspect of it which will be discussed in the coming video. But today, to sum this up, a will, number one, being registered, yes. Registered will, number two, has to be seen that whether the registered will on an XYZ person's name, how was it registered, why was it registered on that person's name, out of love and affection, what was the relationship, why was it done, what was the whole idea behind it, whether after that registered will there was any challenge or not from the other brothers and sisters, yes or no. So a lot of things have to be scrutinized. For that, you obviously have to go through the due diligence process. But to look for it by yourself, these are the major aspects that you'll be looking up to. So this is the whole part that we are summing up today, and we'll keep guiding you legally as much as we can to scrutinize documents by yourself as an individual when you're buying an investment. But I would still recommend, do not be the person who does all of this by yourself. Please go through a legal help or a good channel who knows, has experience for all these things, and then take any decision. Especially when you're buying something and putting your hard-earned money, please be cautious as to what are you buying. You have to see the title, you have to see the possession, you have to see a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration. So this was about it, and we are ending this here. Thank you so much for watching, and keep coming back, keep loving the way you are, keep subscribing so that I can get more such informative videos for you. And if you are liking such informations, because something I'm trying to do which is not already into play in the YouTube or the Instagram channels, so something that if you appreciate, please do give a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. All the best, and any further queries you can contact us on the number below.